Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is out on assignment, but we have again clinical Professor Drew. Yeah, I wanted the dramatic pause. I started to say guest, but I like he's bigger than a guest. Guest lecturer. Welcome to episode 277 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast show that's covered in sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic program in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live. KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. And we'll get into some of that data consulting latter part of the show with our interview. Got touched on a little bit of that data from a research analytical statistics perspective last Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed it. Many people said they did. With that being said, let me jump straight to Charles and ask you, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc, doing well. You know, we start our morning off getting our good workout in. Now I'm getting my protein in. So doing well, looking forward to getting into it, talk a little bit about HBCU sports and culture today.
Man, you looking sharp over there with your workout, man. You got me pushing up a little more hard weights myself, thinking I'm trying to do something. Got me nervous.
Yeah, man, trying to get these LBs off and doing a pretty good job with it. Shout out to my guy, Jay Johnson, in terms of his training regimen and whatnot for me. So I tell you what, it's coming on off. It's coming on off.
Pretty good, pretty good. Charles gonna be different looking at y'all at the media day, SWAC media day. Y'all ain't gonna recognize Charles. Look at that.
We trying to get it off, Doc. We close it in on 30, so we trying to get it on off. So.
Man, that's all right. That's big time. Drew, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing fine. Y'all talk about sports, culture, getting bodies right and everything. Why don't y'all just go ahead and tell the truth? Y'all, somewhere on the reboot of College Hill from Texas Southern, you know, y'all gonna appear on there. And y'all just trying to make sure that y'all look right when y'all when they get that screenshot of y'all on the reboot of College Hill from Texas Southern University. Go ahead and tell the truth, fellas.
Hey, man, you know, I was trying to find a way to sneak in there. But, you know, sometimes you got to know where. You got to know when to fight and when to lay it down. You got to know your place. I was certainly behind the scenes, opening session. I was in there. But points I was looking for the camera. The other points I was like, oh, it's time to hide. So, you know, you got to
That's going to be all right. That's going to be
Let me go back to
Texas Southern.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. It jumped off and had a lot of people really excited about the episode. That opened the episode did it for a lot of folks, right? The BET Award, so it was timed really perfectly well. And they got that social media sensation as you're supposed to get. But let me go to you, Charles, and see what's some news of the day. What's on your mind?
Yeah, let's jump into it. Chris Paul to produce a documentary on the Southern University Dancing Dolls. So this is the third installment of his Why Not Us series. And this season, he's going to be featuring the Southern University dance team known as the Dancing Dolls, one of the preeminent dance teams in HBCU band culture.
Yeah, should be exciting to get another side of that. We saw basketball, saw football. Now we're getting into what we call the cultural part of it, and obviously with the band, big part of the band are the dancing ensembles. In this case, the Dancing Doll, well recognized in terms of what they bring to the HBCU sports culture landscape and lens, if you would. So it'd be fascinating to see how that comes across on television and where they go with that. Shout out to Chris Paul. He continues to get it done. And so it'd be fascinating to kind of continue to see where that works. Let me go to you, Drew. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind actually, Doc, is a tweet that you sent to us today, and it's not directly HBCU sports related, but UCLA, USC joining the Big Ten, and what's on my mind is what's the fallout of that going to be, and will there be any trickle down, or will there be anything that may ultimately affect HBCUs as conferences do their churning and everything that goes on with these teams moving from conference to conference. And let's look at the big dogs we got out there: Jackson State, A&T, FAMU, the three who have consistently talked about trying to go to Division I. Will this move, along with the OU and Texas move, ultimately give these three institutions a serious thought about going to that FBS level?
Yeah, as you said, Division I, just want to clarify.
Yeah, FBS. I should have said FBS.
Yeah, FBS versus FCS, because all of them Division I, as you well aware, but pointing that out. And I think we'll get some indication in that. And a couple of things point out as we get in that dialogue. We'll have an interview in the second half of the show where we're going to talk a little bit about attendance numbers and television, and what does that mean in an augmentation of really understanding the landscape of broadcast, particularly where we are at this point. And so it's important that you did bring that to the table and seeing these chips that are moving around. Now, obviously, about 2 years ago, it seems now a year and a half, when you had the big announcement between SEC essentially coming out of the Texas camp with University of Texas OU going to the SEC, moving them to 16 members, and how over a year and a half it didn't touch down. But we said it on this show right here that it'll eventually will trickle down to these other institutions, and we saw it in terms of how it changed the FCS landscape, right? Other mitigating circumstances help propel what we see at the FCS, but at some point, I do believe that the Pac-12, what is now seeming to be the exodus of USC and UCLA, two of the power brands on the West Coast, joining a power brand in terms of the Big Ten, which will bring them to 16. As we know, it's not done yet, and it'll be interesting to see where all this goes. What does this mean for the Pac-12, Big 12? Will they fight it out? ACC, in terms of that mix. It's intriguing about the ACC because they have a significant television contract, the 236, and not in terms of the financial numbers, but in terms of the grant of rights and how it may be more challenging for institutions to get out of that. Obviously, if you get a call and it seems right, you can do that. But some people say that this is careening to two institutions or two conferences. Obviously, even if you had a Power Five, you know that you'll have two that are going to be seismically financially different than everybody else. But get back to your point in terms of how this may affect with FAMU, Jackson State, North Carolina A&T. We've heard the FBS talk on different levels. I think this is more of an indication that I don't necessarily see individual institutions trying to make this move.
Right.
There may be guidelines and rules on the books in terms of what takes place. It doesn't mean those things can't change or somebody's fighting to change them. But I think you have heard on Carlos Brown's show, if you listen on Saturday, you can go back a couple of weekends. You had AD on from Southern University, Roman Banks, who talked about the financial status of the SWAC, where it was strong and how it's continuing to increase. They have some big announcements, it seems, that are coming on the table that really in his mind, are putting the SWAC squarely in the same framework, if not higher than the Sun Belt, which is an FBS program that many people thought have elevated their brand in terms of the last expansion, what they were able to do, which included getting a FCS program, James Madison, out of the Colonial Association, which ties back to North Carolina A&T and their move. But yes, this will change, and it could be changing not just for exodus of programs at the FBS level or a conference such as the SWAC seeking to put memberships in programs at the FBS level, but it also could be about programs changing direction, coming, whether that's to the SWAC or coming to the MEAC. People still see that landscape can change in such a way that this could be a reversal for some programs that decide that they may want to join back the MEAC. And I know a lot of people see that as blasphemy, not going to happen. But these seismic measures that we're talking about will see a lot of things change, a lot of parts. Now, it might not play out for another year and a half, but you'll come back to this episode and you say, hey, Cavil talked about how this last episode of We See conference training, how it will affect the entire landscape in multiple different ways. Some things we'll be able to obviously see now, and other things that we will not be able to see now. Which brings me to Jackson State football attendance, which dwarfs the Power Five, which is significant when you talk about Jackson State record average home attendance 2021 football is better than so-called Power Fives. JSU Pac FCS record average 42,293 fans in Jackson, Mississippi, Veterans Memorial Stadium for its 6 home games a year, including the HBCU best 58,892 in the stands for its November 20th regular season ender versus in-state rival Alcorn State. Average better than Georgia Tech at 37,005, Boston College 34,700, Syracuse at 32,400, Wake Forest at 28,700, Duke at 15,000. Of the ACC, it topped average records of 39.6, Maryland 38, Illinois 35. And what's going to be interesting, I believe that we'll be able to bring to the table maybe in the second part of this interview coming up, is to augment what it means to have these attendance numbers versus television. And how, if you can put it together, you start to see what's taking place in these landscapes, how it really can matter. But the attendance number alone is one of the reasons you don't necessarily see Jackson State on par with Georgia Tech, because they're able to take advantage of the television numbers associated with the ACC conference and what it does for you, the multiple bids they get in basketball, and how that revenue changes the dynamics of what you see at Jackson State. And you can see Coach Prime talking about trying to change the landscape of seeing what it means to make sure that when you are going after what we call these big time athletes, 3, 4, 5 stars for sure, what it means to create a facility and also augment that amount other things, meals, housing and those things. How do you create an environment that allows them to be in a position to take advantage of it? And it's important. And a lot of that is about the finances. And there are careful parts about that because, yes, alumni can help in terms of greater financial support. The university can do its part, but much of that university money that's coming from the state is allocated to only certain things. And if you're not careful, you don't have that nuance. But if you can increase the television, even individually as an institution, more importantly from a conference, now you can start to change the dynamic significantly in terms of doing projects directly related to athletics, because you have revenue sources that help you do that, including what we see with Celebration Bowl, the MEAC SWAC Challenge, some of the other larger classics that are going out there, and some that may be on the books coming your way, getting a little ahead of yourself. So wanted to talk about that, but as we do that, let's go to the break. We'll be right back after this break, as we just talked about some introduction, letting you know what's going on. And then we'll come back and give you some other information as we come back. But let's go to this first break.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure. It's wireless. It's something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021. Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry. I used to hate parallel parking. Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st.
World, what's happening? Rob Morgan here. Just letting you know, July 29th through the 31st, I'll be at Montgomery, Alabama, Urban NerdCon. Come on out, get something signed, take a photo, say hello, let's share some stories and create some memories, you know? Peace.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. TheUrbanNerdCon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is out on assignment, so we have the clinical professor, A.D. Drew, with our executive director being the guest is Mr. John Grant, and that's the executive director of the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. You all just had your kickoff for the MEAC SWAC Challenge, which will feature this year a great matchup, in my opinion, with Howard University of the MEAC and Alabama State of the SWAC. Coach was there. You had the band directors. I like that addition. That was pretty nice. Tell us a little bit about how the event went for those that didn't get to be a part of the meeting or get to see some of the outtakes. I'm sure they've read about it a little bit, about some good folks. We'll get into that. But generally speaking, how did everything?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me this afternoon. I mean, I feel honored to be among this distinguished group of academicians and scholars.
There it is. There it is. I'm trying to work on this.
Ooh, let me go get my boots, y'all.
I know I'm good. I'm working on it too.
Well, you know, I thank you again, like I said, for having me. We're delighted to be here. And I want to thank you all also. I know, Dr. Cavil, you participated in the press conference we had. We were delighted. We had a full house. Really excited to have both Coach Robinson and Coach Scott with us, along with both the band directors, which was the first, and they were excited to be with us as well. It was a really good day. A lot of enthusiasm in the room, and I think we're about to put on a great show to open the college football season. So I want to remind people that we are the runway leading down to Miami. So all roads still start in Atlanta. So you start here and you end here. And although we'll be down in Miami as well, but we need everybody in Atlanta first, because that's where it begins.
Understood.
That's the nation, starting and finishing. I like that. It starts here and ends here. Oh man! As you said, you had the band folks there. Howard's Kelvin Washington and Alabama State's Dr. James Oliver leading their band, the Storm and the Marching Hornet. So it'll be fascinating to see what everybody brings to the table. I'm gonna let them ask the question, but then I wanted to get in really some different perspective to get your expertise, if you would, in terms of leading bowl games, obviously the classic to kick things off, but how you're in the room with a lot of this bowl discussion, and obviously with ESPN, the ESPN events, to give us a perspective, because we talked a little bit about attendance earlier. Obviously, the big announcement that stunned a lot of folks beside the basketball with Durant. People can argue which of the two, but we're in the college space. So we're going to talk about the fact that you had USC and UCLA. It looks like they're packing their bags and going to the Big Ten. We've heard a lot about the money associated with the contract that the Big Ten is doing. And I say all that to kind of create this framework when we get into it. The second half of this, I want us to get an expert to really talk about this landscape. what it looks like. How can we look at this differently than maybe we've seen before to get a better understanding what is taking place? We're these talking heads and they're selling it from one perspective, and that's perfect. It's entertainment, obviously have good knowledge, but now we can take a deeper dive like we like to do on our show in the lab, give a different style perspective. So before we do that, I'm going to let Charles and then Drew ask maybe a final question, if you would, on the MEAC SWAC challenge that's coming up and why other folks should be excited about this matchup. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, John, let me go back to the first, so with the band directors being at the press conference, and you've often fostered this environment, even going to the Celebration Bowl last year with Drum Major Mickey, of incorporating the bands within the football experience itself. How important is that to bring all those elements in?
Well, Charles, that's a great question, and as we believe, and I think we all can agree that the experience around HBCUs, you can look at it like a three-legged stool, and that stool is, the first part of it is sports. If you're looking at football and tailgating and the socialization that occurs around that, is a very interesting part of the experience. The second leg of that stool is going to be music, and that centers around clearly the bands and the role that they play in the HBCU space, as well as providing the energy and the excitement at the games. And then the third leg of that stool are the Greek organizations, because they provide the social climate on campuses and universities, as well as a tone of service and engagement and the leadership that comes out of that. So that three-legged stool is an important aspect that we believe, without question, that we have an obligation to not only foster and incorporate, but also utilize the platform that we have with national television to educate people about the value that all of those three elements bring to what HBCUs do in supporting the academic missions and fostering a place of that's welcoming and that is culturally inviting for us, in that space. So we think it's important, and that's why we move forward in making sure we included the band directors in this year's press conference.
Sure thing. Appreciate that.
Great point there. Before I swing it to you, AD Drew, is talking about that HBCU sports culture and the sporting HBCU diaspora, as I like to call the whole thing. You have Wiley College, the new member of the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, today announced that, quote, "We are excited to announce highly anticipated return of the Wiley College Marching Band. Last active in the 1970s, the prime objective of Wiley College Band are to enhance students' musical skills and curate a unique experience that we know today as the HBCU band culture," end quote. Exactly what John Grant talked about from that perspective, that three-legged stool. So it's fascinating to see HBCU, member of the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, moving over from the Red River Athletic Conference, understands and reinitiating to make sure that they create that culture. But let me go to you, Drew, and ask your follow-up question.
First of all, hello once again, Brother Grant. How you been doing?
I'm good, Brother Drew.
All right. My question is kind of revolving around the time of the game. Traditionally, we've seen this game kick off at noon. We've seen it kick off at 2:30, 3:30, et cetera. And we've seen it on ESPNU, ESPN2, and everything else. Now, this year, it's got a 7 o'clock kickoff on the big boy. So if you would, take us behind the scenes, tell us what goes into those type of determinations. What goes into whether it's going to be on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN3, whichever network it's going to be on, and then what goes into determine, okay, we're going to have a 12 o'clock kick, we're going to have a 3:30 kick, we're going to have a 7 o'clock kick. What are some of the different nuances that go into you guys at ESPN making those type of decisions?
Everything is driven around programming. What contractual obligations you have And in terms of other sporting commitments, whether it's Major League Baseball, because we're in baseball season now. You're looking at, in our case, we're in the tennis season because you got Wimbledon taking place today. And during the Labor Day weekend, you got the U.S. Open taking place. And we have extensive contracts with those entities. So when we looked at, you were correct in history, the game being on Labor Day weekend on that Sunday, so we have, again, ESPN does contractual obligations with USA Tennis and the US Open. That's going to trump anything else that we have, because we have contractual obligations to time slots. So they're going to get the big network. Hence, you were seeing the game on ESPN2 at an earlier time in the day, because later in the day we have contractual obligations to Major League Baseball on that network and on ESPN2. So programming and contractual commitments they first rule the day, which is one of the primary reasons we moved to week 0, to get out of the conflicts that existed around Labor Day weekend. And being in week 0, it gave us the opportunity to have as you called it, the mothership, to be on the main network of ESPN, but more importantly, also it gave us an opportunity to be in prime time. And so we were able to secure that. And that same thing applies when you look at the Celebration Bowl, how we can get on ABC, because it's also driven by the timing of when and the programming commitments. We have a noon kick, and people talked about, well, why don't you go later? I'm not going to give up ABC to move to a later time. What we're going to tell our fans, you need to get out of bed and come to the game, because we don't revolve it around you. We won't revolve it around just let's say the 50,000 fans you get in the stands, when you have a total live audience of nearly 3 million. So we're not going to give up the 3 million for the 50,000.
Gotcha.
Good point. Let me get in this break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and follow up. Follow up. We can get into it. We got a little more time. Let's get in this next break, and then we'll come back and follow up with a question. And that's a perfect setup, because now we're getting a chance to get into some of those numbers, ratings, and really get an explanation of what that all looks like. So let's take this next break. We'll be right back. Get into Drew's follow-up question.
All right.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there, and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Charles Bishop, Professor A.D. Drew, and our guest, the Executive Director of the MEAC SWAC Challenge Celebration Bowl, Mr. John Grant. I know we had a follow-up question for Drew, so let's get right back into it. Go ahead, Drew.
All right, follow up about these time slots there, Mr. Grant. You know, the college football fans like said 3:30 Eastern time slot for their games, be it that they're live or be it that they're watching it on TV. Seems like the networks prefer the 8 o'clock time slot, and then of course you got that for us on the East Coast at 11 o'clock time slot for those West Coast games. Kind of talk about, you know, once again, what kind of goes it? Obviously, the West Coast is the West Coast. We understand that, but what goes into distinguishing that 3 o'clock versus that the 3:30 versus that 8 o'clock time slot for you guys at ESPN?
Well, you have a bigger audience in a later game. First of all, and let me tell you why, using your analogy. If you've got a 3 o'clock game on the East Coast, that's noon on the West Coast. That audience base you more than likely won't get unless if you have a 7 o'clock game and it's 4 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm at the West Coast. I'm sorry, on the West Coast. So we strategically chose to put the game at 7 o'clock to assure that we can maximize the total national audience. And not necessarily lose one or the other. And the results of that I can share with you were this. When we moved to the 7 o'clock time with the 2021 game, there were a total, let me share this data with you, that so in 2021, let me say first that the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge was the second most watched FCS game on record.
Wow.
Say that again. Make sure everybody caught.
The 2021 MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff, Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff game was the second most watched FCS game on record. You look at the landscape, there were 21 games played from week 0 to the end of week 1. 21 total games across the entire college football landscape. The Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge ranked number 10 out of all 21 games.
And those are FBS games that you're talking about also, correct?
Yes, all football. So FBS, and you're talking going into week 1. And we were in week 0. Let me also say by having, and we're taking credit for this as I do with ESPN, the 2021 opening weekend, week 1 was the most watched week 1 on record for ESPN. And we believe because we provided I call it a relay effect by beefing up week 0 with as ESPN did with the kickoff game, with College Game Day, with Good Morning America, with First Take, that were all built around the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge weekend. It gave a running start into week 1, which drew those numbers up, pushed them up significantly.
Appreciate
that. Good points. Charles, I saw you looking like you wanted to get back in there with a follow-up type of question yourself.
Well, I mean, it leads to the question, and you mentioned that being the second most watched FCS game. Do you see the tide turning in terms of the culture slowly transitioning, understanding the importance of television versus attendance? We get kind of fixated and fascinated with attendance numbers, but that is a significant statement that you made in terms of the eyeballs that are watching HBCU games.
Well, let's talk about the college football landscape period. We're actually behind. This conversation that you are referencing, Charles, which is an excellent question. The Power Fives and other and the Group of Five institutions at the FBS level have understood this many years ago. And the news that you saw today or this year that we've seen with all the massive alignment with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, the Big 12, with today the announcement of UCLA and USC announcing that they're going to leave, the Pac-12 to go to the Big 10. Those are all money-driven decisions, and that money-driven decision is driven by television revenue. No one's talking about what's happening in the stands. That we get 100,000 people, okay, that's fine. But when you got a game and the audience is 5 million, right, a stadium has a finite number. It's a finite capacity, no matter what the size of it is. So, getting to answer your question, the answer to that is yes. And I can tell you because in 2015, we came over to ESPN and launched the Celebration Bowl. ESPN was televising 32 HBCU events. 32. This year, we're going to carry over 150 on linear and digital. 32 to 150 from 2015 to 2022. That also
That's 500%.
That also, and you're correct, but that also includes, which we did not have before, that deals with the SIAC and the CIAA, who were not included in that in 2015. So since 2015, with the launch of the Celebration Bowl and what we've been doing, working with the conferences, with both commissioners and the MEAC and the SWAC, which is where it started, expanding now because of the success of the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge being in Atlanta and the results I gave you earlier, and the Cricket Celebration Bowl in the bowl landscape. It gave ESPN the understanding that there was a market there. And so we were able to leverage with them the need to expand to include the other two conferences. And we've done that. So ESPN now has deals with all 4 HBCU conferences.
Can you give us a little background, just coming off of that, questions about linear versus digital? How is it important to understand the landscape where things are going? Because a lot of folks are still old school. We still forcing folks that want the attendance, which, I won't not let it be mistaken. Attendance is important, but it's the aggregate of this that I think is even more important. So you got folks still talking about linear, and now you have obviously the social media and the platform in terms of streaming components. Can you talk a little bit about understanding the importance and where the marketplace is going in even the television business, as you just tried to explain in regards to attendance versus linear or television, but even separated from linear to now streaming?
Look, there's no doubt about it that the expansion of the streaming market is a few years ago was kind of the wild, the new frontier. But think of it this way: with Amazon now carrying Thursday night NFL football, and they paid the NFL hundreds of millions of dollars to do so. Linear television is again a finite space because there's only so many time slots you have in linear programming. Digital is unlimited. So it behooves us, especially in the HBCU space, to recognize that our opportunity is in the digital space. You want a combination of linear, but don't discount, because that's where the future is. Why? Look, you see this right here?
Yep.
That means I can watch a game anywhere, anytime, if it is streamed, and I'm have access to that. So the universe is much larger. We can put much more content out there in the digital space, and with balancing that against putting key content in the linear space.
Great points. Hey, That's what we're using. It's a digital platform.
That's right.
Platform. Who's to say that we even have this type of platform? We could regularly discuss HBCU detailed type of news that we're getting and bringing those individuals that have an expertise in various areas to the people that we obviously see that there is a quest and a hunger for. Before we let you go, I did want to give you a platform to take this in any direction that we may not ask, that is important for people out there to recognize the question that we really didn't ask, that you know people probably need to know.
Well, certainly this conversation has been one that we need to have, and we need to have it regularly, because we need to educate our fans on what the landscape is. And that's been, the opportunity that we've had with our kickoff game and the bowl game is to help fans recognize the value of and the role that television, meaning streaming and linear, have in the economics of the sport. We can't grow our institutions and we can't grow our programs just by ticket sales. We will struggle from now until kingdom come if we believe that our model is ticket sales, and that's why we have some struggles. Now, it's important to have it, but here's the reality. In these deals that are being negotiated, 360 plus million per year with the SEC, potentially almost $1 billion that the Big Ten may put together. Fan engagement is really critical. But added to that, fan engagement in the world of television, to be truthful, is cosmetic. We want to present a full stadium because it adds to the atmosphere of the content of the event. And you want the full stadium because it adds to the energy of the content of the event. But that's what gives it value, because fans will watch a game that is exciting and has a lot of fans. I will give you one other factor to let you know the relevance and the significance of the Celebration Bowl. In 2021, there were 39 bowl games played out of a total of 42. 3 of them were canceled because of COVID. 39 that were actually played. In terms of total live audience, because that's what everything is measured by now. Eyeballs on television and streaming, as well as in the stadium. So we call that total live audience. Out of the 39 games, the Celebration Bowl was number 18 out of 39. Now, we ask you to take out the New Year's Six, the 6 big games, plus the college football championship. That's 7 games that are naturally going to be bigger than the Celebration Bowl. They just are. But if you pull those out, now we go from 18 to 11 out of 32. That's in total live audience. Now, last year's game, because of attendance, and Charles is going to smile on this one, there were 39 games played, as we mentioned before. Celebration Bowl was number 11 in total attendance. You take out that same New Year's 6 and the championship, remove it to 7, where do we go? To number 4.
Wow.
Number 4 out of 32.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And FCS HBCU bowl game. So that's what we have the opportunity to continue to build. And when we do that, it pulls everything else along with it. I would say this, and this is just my opinion, my personal opinion. I believe that because the Celebration Bowl existed, it gave an additional incentive for Jackson State to recruit a Coach Prime, because he got something to play for. As an added value, he got something to recruit with, or any other coach that's out there. And as you've heard these coaches during our press conference, even at the kickoff game this week for the Cricket MEAC SWAC challenge. Each of them said the same thing. Our goal is to get back to Atlanta. And when they're talking and recruiting players, that's what they're telling them. Our goal is to make it to the Celebration Bowl. You have a bowl game to play for. So those are facts that I'm giving you, and they're indisputable.
Oh man, great points.
Drop the mic right there.
Yeah, we'll leave it right there. Thank you, Mr. John Grant, Executive Director of the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. And that's the cricket, MEAC SWAC Challenge Cricket Celebration Bowl. So thank you for your time. Thank you for providing a deeper dive and perspective behind the numbers and why these numbers are important. And that's what we really like to do, particularly this time of the year, because it gives us a chance not just to cover the exciting, the cultural aspects that we talk about, the aesthetics, and the sporting HBCU diaspora, which is bigger than that. So thank you again for your time. Let's take this last break. We'll be right back after that.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021. Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking. Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st.
World, what's happening? Rob Morgan here. Just letting you know, July 29th through the 31st, I'll be at Montgomery, Alabama, Urban NerdCon. Come on out, get something signed, take a photo, say hello, let's share some stories and create some memories, you know? Peace.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. TheUrbanNerdCon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and AD Drew. Let me give you a chance. I'm starting with you, Drew, and then go to you, Charles, to kind of sum that up. You know, what is the perspective? We see this big news coming out here, and now we got a chance to play off that big news and really go into some numbers. What was your biggest takeaway, Drew?
The attendance versus the eyeballs portion of the conversation. And we actually have data that we can go back and look at and see how much the attendance matters and the aesthetics and how it factors into the game. Because all we got to do is go back 2 years to COVID. And we've had games played where it was just the game. Just the game. And look at it. Yet attendance does matter for the aesthetic purposes. But for the pocketbook, it's those eyeballs. And that's where we've got to find that balance, especially when you're talking about old school versus new school. Yeah, of course, nobody wants to see and I hate to call it out like that. Nobody wants to see Tennessee State playing in Nissan Stadium with 3,000 people in Nissan Stadium. I'd much rather see those 3,000 people in Hale Stadium where I've got that full look. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to find that balance with this. And last thing, shout out to Kevin Warren, the first African-American commissioner of a P5 conference, for pulling off what he did today.
Well said. Charles, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think there's a slow awakening of the importance of television and the revenue that it can bring within our HBCU culture. Like I asked Mr. Grant a question, there's this complete fascination with attendance numbers, and I think we touched on some of those points. Attendance from an aesthetic standpoint is very important, but it's the television that really drives everything home. And that was sort of the gist of what I was asking in terms of, as a HBCU fan base, are we starting to understand the importance of eyeballs watching these games? And I think there's a slow coming around of we've talked about this, sort of getting away from the attendance or the attendance model, or the promoter model, if you will, where attendance was the only thing that mattered. We now see how important television is within the landscape of HBCU football.
Great point when you talk about that full picture from both of y'all. Excellent. We go there. As we get ready to close out, former Alabama A&M star quarterback Aqeel Glass going to XFL HBCU Showcase. That's courtesy of WHNT.com. So I wanted to get that out there. Obviously, some big news when you talk about what's going on there. We shout out to Ashley Robinson, his news with the AD of the Year award. We got to find time to give him a shout out and pick lines, as he's one of the hottest names out there in terms of what he's done over the last couple of years. Well deserved in terms of that. Snuck out there a little bit, not catching the biggest news, but it's out there. The new Professional Basketball League formed for HBCU basketball players. We've heard iterations of this. It looks like they're trying to push through with Kimberly Meadows Clark. Her business partners have created that HBCU Basketball Association. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of this new form of what we've seen previously historically of the Black Fives era. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. With that being said, we'll come to a close. Give it out there as you talked about 2023, South Carolina State and Jackson State. Will that be a matchup of Celebration Bowl, or will some other teams find their way to get in that game? And then 2024, you got another interesting one, Norfolk State Spartans at FAMU. I got to get with John Grant and see if I can sneak some ideas for 2025 and 2026 in terms of some schools he should think about. You know, sometimes I get to sneak my way in there, including what it meant to have these band directors, because I've been pushing that for a while. So I appreciate him. He does listen. and takes notes. So we'll keep doing what we can and keep giving you all that kind of information, but that'll do it for us today. Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed our guest, the Executive Director of the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Cricket Celebration Bowl. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday, right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. So again, thanks to John Grant. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab, and we'll have more to come because this athletic landscape, in some form or fashion, it keeps a churning. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you download my JBN, my BCSN. You just heard the importance. You had those folks out there talking about they want the network. We got a network, Black College Sports Network. Support it. Get it out there. The more numbers that we can get, it gives us an opportunity to go land some of these contracts. You talk about having a network, it does you no good to have a network if you don't have followers and revenue that allow you to go purchase the rights. It costs money to get these games, and more than ever, whether you're talking about the CIAA, the SIAC, the MEAC, SWAC, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, these commissioners are more seasoned than ever. They understand that there is a value to the brand associated with playing games. We're not mad at that. It costs money to put these games on. So if you support us, like I know I'm talking to many of folks out there, but share it with your friends. Get them to download my JBN, my BCSN, because all our listeners have already done that. But it is important and it will make a difference. So continue to support the Sports Wrap with Brian and AD Drew. Obviously us right here on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. The pregame show with Charles and Neely, ONG Strike Zone, and then Charles, in terms of Carlos Brown, on Saturdays. These are shows that are giving you content. We continue to get these numbers up. It's easy to turn around, as you've seen us do with the College Baseball World Series. It gives us an opportunity and the ability to show our ability to move forward with these other contents. You see what we're doing, and we got a big announcement as Roy's putting in the work. We're going to have some of those, what we call the mid-major programs, coming on the network and showcasing their brand. And don't get it twisted. When we continue to grow, we're going to continue to grow. And we're going to get you some of these major division programs as well. That'll do it for us. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Drew.
Lecture.
Dream big and continue to move forward. Dismiss.